And today we have Orlando Zayas, the CEO of Katapult, an award-winning omni-channel payment platform. Zayas is known for the revenue growth strategies and visionary leadership and the e-commerce and retail space. Now, his future forward expertise has led companies such as GE Capital, Safeguard Products International, and DRB Capital. Zayas is also highly committed to providing educational opportunities to underprivileged communities through his philanthropic endeavors. Zayas' business insights are regularly featured in publications such as Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine, Retail Insights, and more. Orlando, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure to get to talk to another entrepreneur, someone who risks it for the biscuit, man. It's not a path everyone can walk and stare at people in the face and say that's what they are. So
Right.
I have to ask, do you come from a family of entrepreneurs yourself?
I can't say that I did. I was an Army brat. My dad was a sergeant. I was one of 5 kids. Most of my siblings, working blue collar jobs, and I'm the first who kind of broke out, and not only was the first in my family to finish college and get an advanced degree, but also the first to run a business.
Wow. Okay. So you ventured so far off the path. Now, was this on purpose, intentionally, or it just happened and it just happens to be who you are?
I think it just happens to be who I am. I've actually thought long and hard about, what brought me to this point in time and why I've been driven to this success. I mean, my father died when I was 10 years old. He was obviously a sergeant in the Army, so he was very much about discipline and stuff like that. I was raised primarily by my mother, and so. And she was always very open and, try things. Like I remember when she talked about college, she would say, I want you to try it, but if you don't like college, it's okay. Maybe that's the only reason, maybe that's the reason I'm the only one who graduated. She didn't press us really hard. So I never got a lot of pressure to succeed from my family, but I always felt an inner desire, and maybe I kind of pass it off to being the baby of the family. That the baby of the family always has a lot to prove, and I always wanted to be successful, more successful than my siblings, and more successful than anybody in my family, and more successful than anybody in my high school. On and on and on. So I think it's just that inner drive to be. It's somewhat competition, right? But a lot of it's just I want to be successful.
There was a chip on your shoulder, and and you know what? I think that's really cool. Usually some of the coolest people do have that, and the upbringing or the growing up isn't always easy. I myself, had lost my father early on too. So, but he tried to fight it for 20 years. So I think I know, just hearing that alone, plus your baby of all the family, you add that up, and sure enough, you've got a recipe for I'm going to do something, and people are going to know. So was it finally, do you remember the exact moment that Katapult came into your mind and you were like, yeah, I'm doing this? Because it's not your first company, right?
No. So I actually didn't start Katapult, but I took it over at a very early stage. And I had heard about it. It was called Zibby at the time. Actually tried to buy it when I was with the other company I was with, because I thought it was a really cool business that I could take to the next level. And when I heard that they were looking for a CEO, I quickly raised my hand and said, let me take that over. I mean, literally it was, I think, they did around $17 million of revenue that year. So it was a tiny company. And I had grown a business that was about 450 million at that point. So a lot of people questioned it. They go, hey, is that a step back? But I knew that this was something that I could turn into something big and successful because of really about the financial inclusion and the e-commerce piece of it. To me, the non-prime consumer is being left behind with e-commerce. They don't have the same buying capability, and I saw that as a great opportunity. I mean, I came from that background, if you will. Being non-prime, having to hawk my high school ring to buy books in college and pay my way through school, so I know what it was like to try to get the things you need and what you have to do it. And I thought this was a perfect company to really leverage that and bring something to those families that need additional help at the time that they need stuff.
I respect that. Now, I know it wasn't just seeing the need in the market. I'm sure you did your research. Did you meet with the team and say, yeah, I can even scale this team. Everything is looking good. Was that sort of the walkthrough that you went through?
Oh yeah. Yeah. When we were looking to buy it, when I was the previous company, I met the founders, I met the team. And I like what they had. But I realized that, we needed to bring in a few other experienced people to really take it to the next level. So I thought between my leadership as well as bringing in the right people, which has always been my secret sauce of running a business, is you bring in the right people and you put them in the right seats, and the business usually can take off from there. So a combination of that, and just the right market, that this was a great, humongous opportunity, and I couldn't wait to do it.
Yeah. Do you remember your first day as CEO when you showed up and you had to tell everybody, all right, everyone?
I do. It was actually kind of funny because, it's a tech company, right? And it's a typical, it was New York City, Chelsea.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
22nd Street.
Yeah, exactly. I walked in dress pants and a button down shirt, and everybody looked at me like I was crazy. Like literally, I got dirty looks. So I went to the store, hired a 22-year-old guy, and said, "Hey, dress me. I don't want to look like the old guy looking like a young guy, but I need to look like I'm running a hip fintech company."
Yeah.
Now you see the result.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah, people want to know, hey, look, we take things seriously here, but not
Right.
that serious.
Exactly.
So you have your first day, you say your hellos, you get settled into the culture. Now, once you get acclimated to the way things were, did you see or have intentions of adding your own flavors to the operations and culture there?
No, definitely, for sure. I mean, it was a cool, fintech culture, like I said, but I think the focus on the non-prime consumer and how to really focus on this consumer and bring the products that they need was lacking, I would say, a little bit. And so it was about treating that customer right. So, for example, one of the things we initiated pretty quickly was we don't charge late fees. We're very clear and transparent about what the customer pays. I mean, it's a non-prime consumer; they're not getting zero interest. So, as long as you're clear and transparent, but you give them the opportunity to pay it off quickly and reduce their cost of ownership, the better. And that's what we focused on. And then there's just the blocking and tackling, the operational things that needed to happen. And that's the right staffing in the call center, moving to chat. For example, we were one of the first companies that went 24-hour chat. People are shopping online. Wayfair doesn't shut down their website. So why did we shut down? And that was like one of the first questions I asked. I go, why is our chat shut down at 9:00 at night? And they're like, because they want to go home. I go, well, people are shopping at 10. We should be chatting with them at 10:00, or we should be answering those phone calls. So it was just things like that, the blocking and the tackling, and really focusing on, the merchants and explaining to the merchants what we provide and bring them all together, that helped propel us to where we are today.
Now, as a CEO, were you not only running the company, but also were you put in touch with like directors of the board and things, investors, or is this a bootstrapped company?
Oh no, it was we had a board. We had some VC investors who were on the board. And so, yeah, I immediately started working with them.
Yeah.
That was a whole new ball game. But they were thrilled because I think they were thrilled that, one, I had the experience of running a business similar to this. And we quickly made a lot of changes and, brought it to profitability, within 18 months, which I think was faster than they thought it would be brought to profitability, and just showed growth, right? We showed, the business kind of flatlined in the year before I took it over at that 17 million. And so, the next year we doubled it. The year after that, we doubled again. We really started a growth engine happening pretty quickly. And I think that was a combination of, again, bringing in the right people, bringing the right sales talent, bringing in the right CFO. I brought my CFO with me, which is not unusual for a CEO to bring their CFO.
So important.
Right? You got to have somebody counting the money that you trust, and giving you the finance numbers. So she came along with me, and we built a strong team. And one of the big roles that I brought in was the risk leader who manages our underwriting and credit performance. And she's amazing as well. She's very analytical and brought in a whole new underwriting using machine learning and AI and her background on that to really create these models that we can underwrite better than I think anybody else in the marketplace right now.
You know what I love most about this conversation, aside from the obvious success that I'm sure wasn't easy to establish before you joined Katapult and afterwards, what I love most about it though is that you say things like she and they serve directly under you and they're in high positions and they're managing the money, you know what I mean? And you're focused on the non-prime audience and the fact that your last name is Zayas and I get to interview you and I see this and I see someone who looks just like me, on the other end of this, running the show and proving that you can double up numbers almost immediately by coming in and starting to take over. For me, I think that kind of representation, that noise, that signal being sent, it's rare for me. And I interview a lot of business owners.
I appreciate that. I actually just got chills because I feel good about it. I mean, I look at my team, and if you saw my team, it's probably one of the diverse teams I've ever worked with. I can't say that I go out and hire diversity for diversity's sake. I don't. I hire the best people, and they just happen to be diverse. I didn't mention my risk leader's Chinese, and my CTO is Indian, and of course my CFO is a woman, and so we have a very diverse team. I'm Puerto Rican, and so diversity is something we didn't have to strive for. It just happened because you hire the right people, they'll be diverse, because I always believe in diversity of thought as much as diversity of anything else. And I want people that are going to challenge me. I want people, my risk leader and I, we get in knockdown, drag out fights.
But they're worth it.
Right. But, you want somebody that is pushing back and saying, no, that's stupid. We shouldn't do it that way. And I literally think she said, that's stupid to me numerous times. So you want people on your team that tell you, hey, that's stupid.
Yes.
You don't want yes people. And a lot of times it takes a diverse team to do that. If everybody was like you, they might all agree with you every time too.
Yeah, and there, there's something interesting about you want to talk about like the non-prime customer who tends to be, of ethnic background. They tend to also get along that way where, that's when you're close with someone is when you can say things like that, and you can actually. So I imagine that bled into the culture. So you've got this phenomenal background coming in. You showcase that, what? I can put the effort in and take what you thought was flatlined and give it a second life and even give it a stronger purpose than before. And on top of all of that, what does the future hold now for Katapult? What should people know while they're listening? What companies, sites, like what are you connected to? What's the word?
Sure. I mean, obviously we're going to continue down our growth trajectory. It really is about financial inclusion. 40% of the U.S. population struggles. If they have a $400 bill, they struggle to make that $400 bill. Maybe a little less so because the government's intervened a little bit more, but that's not unusual. It's always been that way. Nothing's going to solve that. There's always going to be that population of people that will struggle. And so, how do you help them through that struggle? How do you help them achieve some of the basic needs they have? I always give the example of a single mother, with 3 kids. Her refrigerator breaks down. She probably doesn't have the money to go out and spend $600 for a refrigerator. So we give her that opportunity to get that refrigerator and go to good, reputable retailers and get the refrigerator that she wants at the same sales price that everybody else bought it for. And we give her options on how to pay it off as quick as possible. And so I think what you'll see from us going forward is just more of that and expanding our product suite so that we can help that customer, provide those other finance tools to get other things that they need, whether it's school clothes, or right now we're stuck with durable goods, whether it's school clothes, whether it's groceries, whatever, to help them through that time, work with them to try to build their credit, work with them on how to build their finance acumen, things like that, so that we're really helping this customer. We have a great repeat rate. Our repeat rate is over 50% right now.
Wow.
And this customers come back time and time again. And it's something that a lot of my brick and mortar competitors don't talk about. And the reason they do that is because we treat them fair. We're very clear and transparent. So we're going to take that same clarity and transparency around financial inclusion and continue to expand that to other financial products, maybe it be credit cards, installment loans, whatever, but focusing on that non-prime consumer.
Oh yeah. I'm excited to see where that's going. I mean, the trajectory it's on, the type of feedback and response you're getting from the actual target audience, the customer in mind here. You can't buy that kind of information, and you can't buy that kind of engagement no matter what you're doing. If someone doesn't think what you're doing is adoptable, then it will flatline. But somehow you've been able to take what was designed and push it in the right direction, as a CEO does, set the company up for the next 100 years if possible, right?
Exactly.
So
hopefully.
yeah, so you're doing your job in spades. So for me, the next logical questions are as follows. Number one, where can the listener learn more about the company and also about you and what you're doing?
Okay, so Katapult.com is our website. We have a investor relations site on there as well if they want to get more in depth on what the company does. Obviously, we have our quarterly earnings now that we're a public company. So November, I think 11th is when our quarterly earnings come out. There's always information around that time. And then I'm on LinkedIn, and you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Orlando Zayas. There's not many of us. I found 2 others. That's it. But they're not on LinkedIn. So I try to keep abreast of what's happening, in the market, in the industry, what's happening, and I've done columns for Authority Magazine and Thrive Global, where we talk about some of the growth strategies and how do we really create a strong customer experience, which we've done. So I think we're the thought leader in those respects, and really focusing on this non-prime consumer. So you can find us online. You can find me on LinkedIn. I even have a Twitter account. It's OJ, hashtag OJ Zayas. I post all kinds of interesting articles, I think, about the same things we're talking about.
Amazing. I'm definitely going to follow you, man. It's one of those things that goes without saying. I now have a question that I've asked a lot of people to indulge me in, but you're welcome to pass. It's never a hard, you got to do this. But the question is always a curious one when people respond to it. If you could have invited anybody today to join us and sort of hear our chat, chime in, maybe even dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Maybe this is an easy one. I don't know. But when I started my kind of trajectory from a career perspective, when I got to General Electric, I thought, oh, good, I finally work for a company that I don't have to explain what they do when I say I work for them.
Yeah.
So I was excited about that. But what I loved about it was I came in at the end of Jack Welch's term, and Jack Welch did amazing things from a leadership perspective. I've read many of his books, and maybe some of those things don't apply today that he did, but there was a lot of good learning about walking around, about talking to your people, about picking up the phone if you had a question. Things that I learned from him, either through his books. I didn't get to meet him in person because when I joined GE, he was on his way out and Jeff Emmett wasn't coming in. But I think, and he had the same blue collar background that I had, and he, bootstrapped his way up on the corporate ladder in GE to run, one of the biggest companies in the world. And I think it's a great story. And it's something that I've always, whenever I'm faced with a difficult decision, in the back of my head, I go, what would Jack do?
Yeah, man. It makes so much sense. Now that I know where you started and when we hear your journey and think about where you come from on top of that, and we see what you've done, could there have been any other path you could have taken for yourself? Like, do you ever think about that? What would it have been like if I wasn't CEO of Catapult? Like, what else would I have been doing?
It's funny. I actually wanted to teach
Yeah,
school,
I get the
and
vibe.
I thought it'd be so much fun to teach school because I have as you mentioned, I think I have a strong education background. I have no kids, so I plan on giving all my money away to educational foundations and especially the University of Texas. And I think education is so extremely important. And it was funny. I literally there was a program. I was in Houston at the time. There was a program where with a college degree, you could get like your teaching certificate really fast. And I called my mother and I said, hey, and my mother was, her sister was a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. My mother didn't teach, but there were a lot of teachers in our family. And I called her up and I said, hey, Mom, I think I'm going to do this teaching gig. And she said, are you crazy? She goes, you have no patience. And so she's probably right. And then maybe I would have failed at that. I don't know. But education is near and dear to me, and maybe I would have been successful at it. I don't know, but it's important, I think, to people to get as much education as they possibly can, and have good teachers. And we all know who our good teachers are, right? I mean, you can rattle them off probably on the top of your head.
I get the sense that your team appreciates having you around and learns a lot from you. And part of what the learning process is that they learn that even the CEO is open to being challenged if the idea is good enough. And I think there's no bigger lesson than that. I mean, you're a walking lesson, man. And thank goodness. Again, I want to go to catapult.com. That's with a K.
Yes.
Katapult, and you can find OJ Zayas on Twitter, right? That's just look him up, or Orlando Zayas on LinkedIn, and you can't miss it. It really has been a pleasure getting to know you, man. I hope this isn't the last time we chat. I'm going to follow you, so hopefully not.
That'd be great.
And thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for giving me the time. I appreciate it.